Welcome, everyone, to the 2-Point Conversion Monday Night Pregame Show. My name is Kyle Senra, and joining me, as always, is the first time we've had the full quad, the full four co-hosts. So started with Gladys Louise Tyler, the 2-Point Conversion off-season host, and I'd love to join forces with you in the in-season, Gladys.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. Here to talk some good Monday Night Football, a division game too. So those are always great.
Bring it on.
Unfortunately, the injuries aren't so great for players, but we've got everything covered for injuries with Dr. James Feretti, the Fantasy Sports Doc. What's up, Doc?
Hey guys, how are you? Good to be here.
I feel like chewing on a carrot every time I say it. What up, Doc? I'm just bugsing you. And then our guest, who we refer to as the producer of the show, mostly because he makes the show sheet for us. Thanks, Dan, for all that typing. But the B League says.
Takes me a week to do those sheets.
That's why we only have one show a week.
That's right. Yeah, we'd be going nowhere. Good to be back on the newly named 2-Point Conversion. No longer the Monday Night War Room. I feel like this is a debut of some sort. Pretty happy to get going. Let's go. Let's get into it.
I guess there's so many injuries. We probably get right to injuries immediately. And
again, another week of carnage.
We can just call this the hamstring section because and these players, some of them especially, are really hamstringing your roster just because of how early you took them. Two players in particular, one from Thursday night's action, another player getting hurt yesterday. So Christian McCaffrey, AJ Brown, both look like hamstring injuries. So Doc, what can you tell us about each player individually and what are our action plans?
Yeah, so Christian McCaffrey, here we go again, right? So he hurt his hamstring in the Thursday night game, as you said. It looks like as of right now, they're not going to put him on IR yet. He still might go on IR at some point if he doesn't progress. I expect him to be out this week, probably next week, maybe even more additional weeks, kind of as this injury gets teased out, just kind of following it and seeing how it goes. There's the risk of re-injury if he comes back too soon. So Chuba Hubbard and Royce Freeman need to be owned in all leagues. And if you're thinking, oh, what do I want Royce Freeman if he's not going to get the lion's share of the carries? Well, what if something happens to Chuba Hubbard while McCaffrey is out? Then all of a sudden Royce Freeman's the next one up. So you can think of that as like kind of a preemptive strike there. But that's the short term for Christian McCaffrey. And hopefully it's just a couple of weeks, but it could be longer. So you definitely want to start thinking in those terms of, could this be kind of similar to what we saw last year where it could extend longer than they kind of let out in the beginning?
For those who are, picking up in fab leagues, for instance, free agent bidding dollars, it seems like Elijah Mitchell after week one went for a lot of money. Yeah. I would say if you were willing to put that type of bid on Elijah Mitchell, you should definitely be willing to put that same amount on Chuba Hubbard, if not more. So
agreed.
He seems like the type of player where if you didn't use any money at all in the first few weeks waiting for players, like this is the type of player you're waiting for.
Yeah.
Someone who's immediately walking into a ton of opportunities. So Hubbard is priority number one so far, maybe throughout the whole season, right? Through the first 3 weeks of free agent additions.
Yeah, and this could very easily be Mike Davis 2.0. If this ends up lingering, comes back, CMC comes back and gets re-injured. Chuba Hubbard could certainly volume his way to, a very significant fantasy season. So I totally agree with that fab recommendation. And then the other major hamstring injury, there was a few other kind of less important ones for fantasy purposes, but AJ Brown left his game with a hamstring injury, and he's already been called, he's ruled out at halftime. So that's not a great sign. And now they gave him the designation of week to week, which is almost universally bad as opposed to day to day. So he's probably out for this week and for at least a couple of weeks. And again, potentially longer than that, depending on how bad this thing ends up being. So definitely some concern there as well.
Now with hamstring injuries, I know with tears and stuff, though, grade 1 tear, grade 2 is like, do they have the same type of designation with like how severe?
I
think I'll be able to translate that. That Canadian Wi-Fi is not going great.
Kyle's having a fit. Here's the best part. He's going to kick us all out to bring us all back in.
Right?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So where was he? What was he talking about?
I think he was talking about different grades of hamstring injury.
He was talking about AJ Brown, right?
Yes.
So let's hypothetically say different grade of hamstring injury, Doc.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Okay, great. Yeah, I can work with that. So hamstring injuries are just any kind of muscle, soft tissue injury, tendons, ligaments, muscles, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, generally how they rate them. Grade 1 being the least severe, grade 3 being the most severe. Grade 1, microscopic tearing. So there's some injury to the fibers, but not actual tearing of the fibers. Grade 2, partial tearing of the fibers, and then grade 3, complete tear of the fibers. So grade 1, we're thinking kind of 1 to 3 weeks. Grade 2, 3 to 4 weeks, and then grade 3, probably going to need surgery. Could be months, maybe done for the year. It doesn't sound like we're at that point now. Usually when that happens, we know about it pretty quickly. We kind of saw that with Deebo Samuel last year, where he had multiple hamstring injuries, and he had his second hamstring injury. And as soon as it happened, they were like, that's it, he's done. So they knew it was bad, probably a high grade 2. This is probably either a grade 1 or a low grade 2. So we'll have to see, but we're thinking at least a couple of weeks, maybe longer. Definitely would be thinking you're going to be without him for at least a couple of weeks, minimum.
Right. So we're looking at these injuries from that perspective. There are other hamstrings that went through the week. We kind of mentioned that. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton in the same game.
Yep.
That's another big one too. Marquez Valdez Scanling.
Yep.
All right. What bothers you the most out of the guys that I just mentioned?
I think they're kind of all in the same boat, and we just kind of have to watch the practice reports and see how it goes. But there is a risk that all three of them could miss this week minimum and kind of go from there. And we'll just have to see if they're practicing. And we kind of saw this lead up to this with Dalvin Cook, who, we could talk about at some point, where they kind of underplayed it in the beginning of the week, and then he's not practicing on Wednesday. Okay, maybe it's a veteran day. He's not practicing on Thursday. All right, now I'm getting a little concerned. And then Friday's a walkthrough, and he didn't practice on Friday. And then now I'm really worried. And it turns out he didn't end up playing, and we finally saw Alexander Madison actually get to do something. And so that ended up working out. And we don't know with Dalvin Cook. Like, he could still be out this coming week and maybe weeks, ahead of that. So we still are not out of the woods yet with him. So that is going to be my guess, is how a lot of these are going to play out. Are these guys practicing? If they're not, then be concerned. If they are, then be less concerned. So we're just going to have to wait and see.
More concerning than a hamstring for me, it feels like it seems to be the trend going back to last week with Tua Tagovailoa, are all these rib injuries. Now, obviously, we had DeAndre Hopkins that had that as well. I didn't want to play him anywhere because, hey, all it takes is that one big hit. That guy goes up and reaches for it. It's over. We're now looking at Juju Smith-Schuster as well. Obviously, Tua, Darrell Henderson. These are guys with, was it Amari Cooper as well?
Amari Cooper as well, yeah.
Another guy tonight. So we're talking about rib injuries.
And Gronk. Don't forget about Gronk.
I thought that was more back, but we're talking about restriction, right? So how bad is it for these guys to be trying to come out and play with rib injuries?
Well, I think the thing with rib injuries, and this is maybe the teachable thing, when you have a rib injury, there's kind of three flavors. There's a bruise, there's a break, and there's a tear of the cartilage. And they kind of go in that order as far as severity. So a bruise is the least severe, a break of the actual rib is the second worst, and then a tear of the cartilage actually is worse than a break, just because there's less blood flow to the cartilage. It's a lot harder to heal, and they can linger even longer. So the thing about this that's really kind of scary is with Tua, initially, if you remember, he was just said to have bruised ribs. They did a bunch of tests. They didn't find anything, just bruised ribs. And then 2 days later, bam. Oh, sorry, they're broken, and he's going on IR. So with all those guys that you mentioned, where we don't have a diagnosis yet, so Juju, Gronk, they could be anywhere on that spectrum. They could be anywhere on that spectrum. Even if they say there's no break, they could still end up having a break. So we have to kind of operate that we are not out of the woods until we actually see them playing like Amari Cooper is. Like, Amari Cooper has a bad bruise of the ribs, but they're not broken. He's been out there. He's been playing. So that's something. But until they play, like with Darrell Henderson, he had a cartilage tear. It was pretty clear he wasn't going to play relatively early in the week. And then sure enough, he ended up being inactive and could be inactive for weeks to come as a result of this.
But I thought Cooper had cracked ribs, and the Arizona
Nuck Hopkins.
Yeah, didn't he? And he had bruised ribs too, right? And ended up playing.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is it easier to be a decoy with bruised ribs than not? Like, can Cooper just be out there? Like, what I read his statement as is, yeah, I'm going to be on the field. That's what it sounded like. So, I mean, you have mobility, right? You just don't want to get hit again, because Gronk went back in after he got hit.
He did, yeah.
It's Gronk.
Yeah.
So.
And I think to answer your question, it's a good question. These guys are tough, like really tough. So to even think about being out there with like a broken rib or a really bruised rib or a torn rib cartilage is like, if you think about your rib cage and what the ribs do is like they expand when you breathe. So
right.
Think about like having a rib injury and then forget about running around and breathing hard and stuff like that. Imagine if you sneeze or you cough, or anything like that. Think about how painful that would be. And then multiply that by like every time you breathe, it hurts. Forget about somebody hitting you or you hitting the ground or, somebody throwing a football really hard and hitting you in the chest where your ribs are broken or torn. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. But they do have the ability to kind of go in and numb up the ribs with pain-killing medications, and they can wear extra padding and protection. And they just kind of go out there and they gut it out. So, yeah, they are able to kind of go out there and do something, but if they take a bad shot, then they can be out for the game. But that's really anybody. I mean, anybody
right.
in the sport of football is one shot away from being out for the year, essentially. So that's another way to think about it, too, as far as risk.
Yeah, football players physically.
Bringing on the smack talk. Not even the show. Wow.
Football players are tough, and Gerson's saying apparently tougher than Dan in trade talk. So
wow.
Dan quite convicted with his players. I mean, I'm guessing he has a price. If you don't match the price, then you don't get the player, right?
I'm just here minding my business, Gerson. Thanks.
Gerson is giving us gold, though, to be fair, in the comments, saying two is more fragile than a Christmas ornament. So
listen, I'll say this. Gerson, I'll say this. If I'm running around with TJ Hawkinson, I don't want Dallas got it. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't want him. I don't need him. I'll take an L for the week. I can take Hawkinson putting up zeros on a bye week. I don't need a backup. I'm good. Get out of here.
So speaking of trades, we do have a question in well, not so much a question, I guess maybe wants to know if he messed up or not. But John Rurak asking, think I messed up trading Henry for Cook. So I'm assuming that's Derrick Henry for Dalvin Cook. Now, a comment later, he says he got Cook and Metcalf. So if it is Dalvin Cook and Metcalf straight up for Henry, I'm fine with that. Getting two starters for the price of one. I think the total points you'll get in your lineup. I guess the only thing is, if you're getting Cook and Metcalf, are you dropping someone you shouldn't be dropping? Because then you're also, you're not just giving up Henry, you're losing that player too. If you had someone inconsequential on the bench to drop for that, then and it is just giving up Cook you're just giving up Henry to get Cook and Metcalf, I'm fine with that.
Not many times in a year you'll see Derrick Henry going 6 for 6 and 60 in the receiving game. I'll take it. Like we saw what Alexander Madison did yesterday, right? That's Dalvin Cook. We're just surprised it was Madison. That's,
exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, I guess, and Doc, you're always talking, okay, if you're going to have like a player, like you're buying into a player like Dalvin Cook, have something ready. And it seems like they're saying they have Harris. I'm going to guess Damian Harris on the bench and might start instead of Cook. If it was Najee Harris, I'd assume they'd already be in the lineup anyway, or you're so deep at running back that you can afford to trade away Henry if you think you get more upside with Cook. So, here's the thing. He dropped Claypool as a result of that. So
dropped
I know
Claypool.
Doc.
Ouch.
So then it feels like Cook. It feels like you're giving up Henry and Claypool for Cook and Metcalf.
Ouch.
I
Well,
mean, as long
it
as
depends on how many teams there are and, roster size and things like that, what the free agent pool looks like. But, man, just seeing that, I was like, man, that hurts.
He's just saying
Oh,
he has
it is
Najee
Najee
Harris,
Harris.
so that's definitely good enough depth to be able at running back to be able to do that. Dan, it seems like you want to say something, but I'm not sure.
No.
No, okay, no. Gladys, any comments for this trade again? Trading away Derrick Henry, dropping Chase Claypool,
Dropping
to
your
get
boy
Dalvin Cook
Chase. I'm surprised you
and
didn't say
Metcalf.
anything there.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, it's probably not a good thing to drop them because now they're down Deontay and they're down Juju. Chase is moving up the play me list, but you still have been throwing the ball, so it's going to be Najee all day. So no, I really don't want to talk about the Steelers unless they get a new quarterback.
Okay, so we'll skip over Deontay, the knee injury, because I don't know. Have we had any more clarification? Like, Doc, as have you heard anything? Because all we've heard is it's not great, but it's not good either.
Yeah,
It's good,
It's good, but not great, or it's not season ending. I think that's basically all we know.
Yeah. So, thinking that maybe it could be a bone bruise or maybe a grade 1 strain of one of the ligaments, not an ACL. Maybe it's like Andy Dalton's injury where, it's still a week-to-week thing. So looking at a couple more weeks maybe of him being out, but not something where they haven't IR'd him yet, to my knowledge. So that's at least hopeful that he might be back in a week or two. Just real quick, wanted to touch on the Chicago Bears quarterback carousel. So Justin Fields' debut and Justin Fields' season may end just as abruptly as it started. As it turns out, he did not do that well, and he injured his hand during the game. So the x-rays were negative, but there still could be a ligamentous injury like we saw with Matt Stafford last year. So I guess my question to you guys is it possible that we're going to see Nick Foles under center for the Bears next week? Remember that guy? Does that do anything for you at all? Or it's like
talking about Nick Foles on the night of an Eagles game, of course.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I think Fields is fine.
Sorry, Dan.
No, it's one of those. What is the offense that Matt Nagy's going to come up with going to be worse for him than it is Justin Fields, Andy Dalton? It's going to be stinking anyway. Like what's the worst thing Foles is going to do? Play well? Like we're in that position with the Bears right now where they're just bad and he can't do any worse. So why not roll out Foles? Go get him.
It's like their own worst enemy, right?
Listen,
Nagy is their own worst enemy.
If there's anything that we know about Foles, he can throw a ball. So if anyone has Allen Robinson, don't panic yet. Give it another week or two.
Yeah, I wouldn't be going out and dropping them.
No.
Or trading away low. But yeah, I think so. First off, Jared coming in saying he sees 4 dynasty enemies. I know this week, I think actually in our dynasty league, we're all in together. I believe I'm playing Dan this week, so
you should win.
I'm glad. Yeah, I had checked since yesterday. I think I should too. Got Dak going tonight.
No, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel like I'll be fine. Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence, Dan. Not so confident in Doc. We're actually going to go to your team now, the Raiders. Josh Jacob, and there was conflicting report. I mean, with this. First off, earlier in the week, it seemed like he was listed at first with everything, so that's always concerning.
Yeah.
It seems like it's toe injury, right? That's what it is right now. That's what's keeping him out.
Yeah. So they talked about him being very questionable early last week, and then sure enough, he misses the game. Coach Gruden had a quote this week where they said they're going to try to get him back on the field this week. I don't know how that's going to go. But he already missed week 2. He missed week 3. Could we be dealing with a turf toe situation or a joint sprain of the big toe? And if so, these are things that can linger. If they get worse, they can possibly require surgery. So he's not out of the woods yet by any stretch. And then, as far as the Raiders are concerned, it's like, hey, we don't need Josh Jacobs. You're 3-0, baby. I mean, come on, leading the AFC West. Bring it on. I mean, sure, they can almost blow the game in regulation, but they found the cardiac kids finding a way to win in overtime. Oh, my God.
Yeti coming out of the woods and saying, not the Raiders, duh Raiders.
Yeah,
so there's also 2 eyes there. Yeah. I didn't say it properly. I don't have the Raiders grind.
But Peyton Barber had a really good game, kind of surprisingly. Like Kenyon Drake was allegedly the threat to Josh Jacobs, and it turns out that may not be the case. Peyton Barber refusing to go away and kind of looking really good in that game. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on as far as pickups, especially if this thing lingers. I don't know how the splits are going to go, but it looks like he's the lead dog so far, and the Raiders are going to kind of go with the hot hand there. So, he may have been dropped in some leagues, or he may be available in a decent amount of leagues. So somebody to look at for sure.
I didn't watch the game yesterday. When did Tyler Locket get hurt?
Towards the end of the game, and he kind of went out and came back in.
So
he played after, and he was down. Like the whole team kind of took a knee around him. Like it looked super severe. And then the next series, he was back out there like nothing happened. So
yeah,
it seems like, I don't know if you've heard anything else, Stock, but it doesn't seem like he's at risk of missing week 4 unless extra swelling, maybe something.
Glad you brought it up, because this is a teachable moment. So he twisted his knee. He was able to re-enter the game. Now, Pete Carroll, after the game, said that he was okay, which gives me exactly zero reassurance on anything. However, because he was able to re-enter the game, that does give me some reassurance. So I think this is just something where you're right. We watch the practice reports. Now, we could still get the rug pulled out from under us at some point, but I'm not anticipating anything terrible. If he's practicing, I think he's probably going to be okay, and he dodged a bullet, but he's not completely out of the woods yet. So don't go by anything Pete Carroll says with regard to injuries ever. That's like rule number 1 of injury analysis. So if Pete Carroll says he's okay, that does not help me one iota.
The number 1 rule is ignore whatever Pete Carroll says, and then number 2 is every other coach. Like Pete Carroll's his own rule.
But Pete Carroll especially.
There's only one coach you can trust, and that's Belichick, because he tells you everyone's hurt, and then you have to figure out who isn't. That's the best part. He's like everyone's on the injured list this week, and if they turn up, they turn up.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that with Stefania Bell on the Armchair Show, and she said, well, a lot of other teams lie, but the Patriots don't lie. They just don't tell you anything. And I remember thinking, like, lies of omission. I was like, I don't think that really works. It hasn't worked in my history. Like, lies of omission don't do me any favors. So it's like, that's not necessarily better. It's just different.
And then KJ Hamler's out for the season.
Yeah, KJ Hamler's done, tore his ACL, so he's out for the year. I figure that's got to help the prospects of the last men standing: Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, and the pass catching abilities of the running backs. Hey, the Broncos are looking decent, man. Like they're 3-0 too, top of the division, tied with the Raiders.
Yeah, who'd have thought the Chiefs would be 4th place after 3 weeks? That's
me.
Yeah, the NFL, gotta love it.
Same with Seattle, right? 1 and 2, bottom of the NFC West.
That's crazy.
Now, so Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton are kind of like the 1 and 2 in terms of who will be the top 3 receivers. Jerry Jeudy once he's healthy, but like who is that number 3 receiver for the Broncos now, or do they just ignore the 3rd wide receiver and go more with 2 tight ends with Fant and Okwebunan?
Noah Fant is the 3rd wide receiver, if he's not the 2nd. I mean, Noah Fant gets targeted a lot by Teddy B. So I would say Noah Fant easily.
Last week it was really spread out though. Like they were all basically got. I don't think any of them had more than 5 or 6 targets. So it seemed like last week was.
Jets. So
that's also true.
I mean, the Jets weren't really. Their defense looked pretty good, but they were out there for so long that towards the end of the game, I mean, you could tell they were just gassed. So I'm waiting for them to play someone substantial.
Someone not the Jets.
Well, yeah, because Jets, Jaguars, and who else did they play?
Don't say it.
Giants.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So when you played awful teams like the Jets and Jaguars, yeah, and whatever the 3rd team was. Speaking of 3-0, so Jared mentioning Sam Darnold won 3 games with the Jets and is now 3-0 with his new team. Stafford also 3-0 after being average for years with Detroit. Thoughts? It's all about coaching?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, in fairness, Stafford was pretty good when he was with Detroit. The rest of the team wasn't good, but he was a good quarterback. Like he had good stats, and he was a good quarterback. But the rest of the team was not.
good coaching. Like when they had Jim Caldwell, they made it to the playoffs half the time. They 4 seasons with Caldwell. The worst they ever went was 7-9, and 3 winning seasons, 2 playoffs. So like with decent coaching, he was always good. And then you had Patricia, and saw how bad that got.
I think
nobody's perfect.
Wait,
I mean,
does Jared Goff not look good as a Lions quarterback though?
That's also true.
Like,
look
that's
bad.
the first part of this. As great as like Matt Stafford's looked for the Rams, I don't think anyone saw Jared Goff looking as good as he does right now with the Lions either. So he's playing above what expectations. So, I mean, the Baltimore game, they were pretty good. Who was it? Week 1. Was it the Packers they played? He was all right.
The 49ers.
No, it was
The 49ers. They
played the Packers.
They were down big.
Who they played week 1? It was
San Francisco.
It's like 54. Yeah, that's it. Like, they look pretty good. Like, that's no different than a Matt Stafford game. Coming from behind.
Exactly.
Like,
Bunch of garbage.
There's nothing different there to me except, Matt Stafford has a big arm. Like, I mean, come on. You get Deshaun Jackson in space, you've got a big arm. He underthrew him 3 times. Like, where are we at here?
It's interesting that you mentioned Jared Goff because one of the Dynasty Gambit hosts was saying that he would be decent. I can't if it was either me or Hamid. I can't remember. I think it was Hamid actually, who said he was going to be good. I forget. We should go back and look at it. But one of us said it. I can't remember who it was though.
Well, and I mean, Jared's mentioning in the comments, Stafford has made Cup I think he is the wide receiver 1 overall right now. But he has been there was a point where I think it was 2019, there was a stretch where he was the wide receiver 1. And that was with Jared Goff. That's saying more about Cup more than anything, and maybe the way Sean McVay uses Cup in the offense designed for him. I just looked at the Broncos depth chart real quick, and with KJ Hamler done for the season, and with Judy still on IR, they actually only have 4 wide receivers on the active roster. Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, everyone's favorite quarterback from last year, Kendall Hinton, and then former CFL standout Deontay Spencer, who has been with the Broncos for the last few years as a returner more. But like he strikes me as someone having a similar skill set to Hamler, like the deep speed. They're going to use him, get the ball in his hand and let him, after the catch as well. So I could see, Deontay Spencer being that guy for Hamler. Now it's probably more of a deep dynasty pickup, but yeah, I Deontay Spencer's got the talent for sure. I think.
I don't think they do much different between now and when Judy comes back. And at 3-0, just like what we said with the Raiders with Jacobs, they don't need to panic right now because they probably thought they could be at least 2-1, 3-0. That's probably not outside the realm of what they thought they could be with Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Jets. They're in no rush right now to have to bring Judy back. They could go 3-3. Like, they could be 3-3 in the next 3 weeks, and then Judy comes back a week or 2 later, and then here we go. Back to off we do. So I don't know. I don't know if they have to actually do anything more unless something goes downhill even more so. But they could roll out those 2 tight ends, and I don't think they'll skip a beat. They all seem pretty healthy outside of was it Bradley Chubb as well? He went down a week or 2 ago, which is a shame.
Yeah, next season's against the North. So I mean, Ravens, Steelers, and then they play the Raiders. They can easily go 2-1. They can easily. Yeah. Ravens didn't play that well yesterday. I mean,
they haven't played well all year.
Yeah, so
they haven't played well all year.
And
I think Kansas is one thing, right? Because Kansas is Kansas, but at the same time, like they had to drag themselves back out,
barely
get back into that.
Like, a record-setting field goal just to beat the Lions.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to really feel for the Lions, man. I mean, Justin Tucker nails a field goal from the Upper Peninsula. And they win the game at the buzzer. I was like, come on, man. Like, you could just see Dan Campbell's face after that. He was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, that
seems to be the look on everyone on the other side of the fence was saying that as well. Everyone in Baltimore was going, wow, you're kidding? That's okay. Good for them.
So got a question from Jeremy here. So Rondale Moore didn't pay off and Pitts didn't show up. So I guess disappointing week in week 3. Now, I guess it's a question about more, or about Pitts, but maybe also could flex consideration. Safe to start Higbee for now instead of Kyle Pitts. So just looking at their week 4 schedule, both are at home. The Falcons take on Washington and the Rams take on the Cardinals. So these are both dome games. So yeah, I guess to answer Jeremy's question, are you starting Higbee over Pitts next week?
No. I'm not, but I mean, no. I no. There's like, no, I'm not. I think that Atlanta is feeling its way. I mean, you have to remember they're coming in with a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. They lost Julio Jones. Kyle Pitts is a rookie, and Russell Gage isn't doing dick. So
he's injured too.
Yeah, it's been Calvin Ridley and Cordell Patterson, who shows up as whatever position you want him to be in. I think Pitts is going. I have faith in Pitts. Not that I don't have faith in Higbee. It's just a lot of mouths to feed in that one. I'm waiting for Woods to show up in those games, before Higbee does.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Dan's like, I got nothing. I'm going back on vacation. I got nothing.
No, I mean, listen. I mean, Cole, they're trying to get him in. I feel like that's the difference. Higbee seems to be a guy that is a part of a greater game plan, and if he's the option, they go. You saw what he did yesterday. He was the play. He seemed to always be open. He did what he had to do, but I don't feel like that's going to be a weekly occurrence for him. With Atlanta, that I'm not going to say they're almost force feeding it through Pitts, but they are making an effort to get him involved, and that's only going to get better as the season goes on and on. Like, it doesn't forget the Falcons' record this year. Forget it, and that can go from a fantasy perspective. You're always chasing volume, and I feel like they're going to start getting that going towards Pitts more and more as the season goes on. In terms of next week, where do we say they were? Who was at the Rams?
The Cardinals.
So Cardinals at the Rams. Yeah, you could. I mean, that could be a high over-under game where points are a premium, and that could have a 60-point over-under, and he could get involved in a passing game that goes wild. So, that's how I would lean on it. The Falcons, they're looking at another game that is going to have a 50-point over-under, and they're going to score 17 points again. So, yeah, that's the thing. It's going to be someone like Cordell Patterson a week before. This week, Olamide Zaccheaus. Like, that as Gladys was alluding to, they're extremely disjointed. But again, you're chasing volume, and again, like a game like that with the Cardinals, that could go anywhere, and he could be heavily involved like that, and that's a tough one. I don't envy you there, mate.
The one thing I'll say, go ahead, Gladys.
No, go.
So in the past, the Cardinals had been really vulnerable to tight ends. Like a couple of years ago, they were like the worst defense. Like but that hasn't been the case so far this year.
Yeah.
They haven't really played any good tight ends. Tyler Conklin, but he just had a really good week in week 3, and week 2 held him to 2 catches for 15 yards. With the Cardinals, I mean, Max Williams, again, he recently had a good week, but against the Cardinals, he was held without a catch. So it seems like they're a better tight end defense than what they were a couple of years ago. So I think Dan, you have it right with talk about the upside, right? Because I think that's why you play Higbee, is because you think he has the better chance to score a touchdown than Pitts. Now, I guess Pitts can he get more targets? Can he just accumulate more yards even without scoring the touchdowns and be enough? It's tricky to say.
They're working their way in. I'd be surprised if it all clicks next week. After watching that, I don't know what that was this week, but after watching that against the Giants this week, you can see that they want him to be involved more. And that want is nice, and that's going to come as the season goes on. But you look at a game with the Cardinals, which, okay, they've been okay against tight ends, but Tyler Conklin, where were they at this week? James O'Shaughnessy, where were they week 1 again? It was a high score.
It was Tennessee.
Ferguson. So, like, they're not coming up against tight ends.
3 for 19, right?
They're not coming
up
against people. They're not coming up against people that are prolific enough in that sense.
Hooper will be the most. Higbee will be the most talented.
He's going to be their first. He'll be their first big test in regards to this is a good tight end that is in a very high volume passing offense, and this game could go wild. And that's the thing. Like, I would probably lean towards Higbee because at least I know they're going to chuck it. They're not leaning on a running back. That's not happening. It's not Darrell Henderson, Jake Funk, Sony Michel. It's going through the air. So I feel like that's the way. But with Atlanta, Mike Davis, Cordell Patterson, is that what we're doing again? Like, this is where we're at with what the Falcons are doing. And Calvin Ridley's not had a great year, I don't think.
No.
And at the same time, they're trying to get Pitts to be where they need him to be. So I would lean towards Higbee purely because of the chance that game just blows up. I don't think Atlanta's going to get that anywhere they go, not in the next few weeks anyway.
You're chasing with tight ends is who's going to score the touchdown, which game has the better chance of scoring a touchdown. Falcons play the Jets in week 5, so that may be one where that's the one where you want to play Pitts in that game.
You should have told me that before I started, Kyle. Damn it.
Yeah. But that's week 5. We're talking week 4 here though against Washington, right? So this might be Higbee this week, but then Pitts the next week in week 5. Like that might be how you go about it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dan. I think Pitts is at the point where you got to show me something before. If I have another option, I got to see something from you first, and hopefully this is the week. Higbee has a good week, and then you get him in there for the Jets, and hopefully it's wheels up. But if you have another option, I think you got to sit him down until you actually see him live up to some of that potential that we all hoped he would have. So for me, I agree. I would go Higbee this week. And the other thing to think about is I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to score 2 touchdowns every week. So if he doesn't this week, somebody else has got to get them. And if it's not Robert Woods, then why not Higbee? So maybe this is the week that it kind of evens out a little bit there. Or maybe just Cooper Kupp is going to score 30 touchdowns this year. I don't know. But
I think Sean McVay came out and said that he's trying to get Deshaun Jackson involved more into the game too. So you have D-Jax coming out.
I mean, if Stafford stops underthrowing him, then maybe he will.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what?
So one of the things. So we have another question here from Giuliano. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I probably butchered that.
We'll go with Giuliano.
We'll
go with Giuliano.
The doc fixed that. He healed the name there. Hopefully we don't butcher the props. So saying 4 prop bet. So the Cowboys win. Amari Cooper 1 touchdown. Pollard 10 plus rushes. So I'm 10 carries and then, is that 10 rushing yards? I'm not sure. And then Dak, it says 14 plus 525 anything. So I'm guessing that's 525 yards.
That's what he's
there's no way.
525 anything.
That's just what he's paying out.
He's paying out. Okay, I see.
That's
the end of the prop line.
I'm going to guess that's Dak. I'm going to guess that's Dak 14 rush yards as well. That's what
rush yards. Right, that's the thing he said. Okay, rush yards is the next one. Okay,
okay.
All right, so thanks. Cowboys win. Cooper 1 touchdown. Pollard 10 carries. Dak 14 rush yards. So he's asking, is there anything he should change? Like, is there one of those 4 that you don't think is going to happen?
So for me, this is going to segue nicely into our prop section.
That's why I figured. So thanks for the question. I figured we were going to get to that. Our game preview. This is the preview of Monday Night Football.
I think Pollard 10 plus rush attempts. That the week before he had 3, right? And then against the Chargers he goes up to 13, so he's averaging out to 8. So that might be a little deceptive. So for Pollard to get 10 plus rush attempts, that something would have to. Either way you look at it, it will go either something really wrong for the Cowboys on either part of it. Like for him to be, I think, getting an honest, consistent 10. It's tight, but they seem happy with what he's doing, and they told us in the offseason that they were going to get him more involved. So it's not out of the realm, but that would be the one. Look, we're going to get in the Amari Cooper, Giuliano very soon, Dak Prescott as well. So we're going to get that very soon, and you're going to like some things about Amari Cooper very soon. Touchdowns are always sticky. It's hard to bet on them, but it's the Eagles. Obviously, the injury concern to the ribs, that could play a factor, but let's just say Amari Cooper has fun with the Eagles at home. We'll say that.
Nice.
Julian,
I say if you're feeling it, go for it, man. If you got that sense, you're liking it, go for it. And plus Zeke could get hurt. Zeke gets nicked up, then probably can get 10 rushes that way.
But to me, the one I'm almost more worried about is Dak 14 rush yards. He has 13 in 2 games so far, so he hasn't running as much nearly as what he had in the past. So I think that's something that as the season goes on, we might see that more. I don't know. Maybe this is the game where he starts to feel a little more confident, so he's doing it more. But I don't know.
Or maybe not. I don't think he wants to get tackled. Period. Yeah. Like he did last. I mean, that's the exact mechanism of how he got hurt last year.
it'll be a short week to next week, right? Monday to Sunday. So, like, if anything, last game would have been the one where he would have been willing to test it more, knowing he had the extra rest coming off. So, I'd argue if there's one to change, it'd be that one to get away from the Dak rushing yards.
If they're behind, he's a chance, though. That's the thing. If they're behind, you've seen him put the Cowboys on his back and drag them forward, and he's done it before, whether he wants to or not.
Lay down.
So,
but then again, but that goes against the pick of Cowboys win. So,
I mean, he's dragged them to wins by doing it.
That's true. If he does it, it's good. Yeah.
Well, as a Giants fan, I'm telling you, I've seen it too often.
Fair enough.
I've seen.
So I think. I think the 4 props are all within the realm of possibility. I think we all Cowboys win. I mean, it's a division game. That's a 50-50 if they're going to win or lose, I think. I think we probably we'll get to it at the end in terms of who we think will win. But is everyone most confident in Cooper with 1 touchdown? Not to say that he's for sure going to get it, but I like the odds.
I'm cool with it. Yeah, why not?
That's definitely
He does all right. We'll get to that soon, though. He does all right.
Okay, well, yeah, let's get to this Monday night preview. So,
hang on, before we do that, there's one guy that we missed. It's pretty important. So James White got Fitzmagic,
yes.
And his subluxes are dislocated his hip, very similar to what happened to Fitzpatrick in Week 1. So he's probably looking at a mini-week absence. He could be done for the year. Just kind of awaiting confirmation there as to what the damage is. So not looking good there, to say the least. Couple other ones I wanted to touch on. Get your guys' opinion on this. The 49ers carousel of running backs. So we lost Elijah Mitchell, and maybe we gained a Trey Sermon. I don't know. But he had that stinger injury. It may be worse than just a stinger. So he missed Week 3. No guarantee that he's back for Week 4 either. It looked like Trey Sermon did okay in his absence and should get a shot to continue to at least get starter-level reps in his absence. Wanted to get your guys' opinion on any of that and what you thought about the game. And, and could we be seeing a changing of the guard with Trey Lance coming in and getting more involved after that horrific, gut-wrenching, gut punch loss by the 49ers that I'm sure Kyle was very happy about?
They're not going to change anything. They're not going to change. They're not going to go off court. They're going to say they got beaten by a 51-year-old field goal and everything's going the way it should. I think that there's a positive. I think there's a positive for both Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon. And here's where I stand on this. I don't think Trey Sermon looked great as his first full start. Okay, he started slow, but he worked his way into the game. Fair play. It could be a couple things that he picks up and does better with. Elijah Mitchell looked pretty good. I could see them being a tandem. Trey Sermon, listen, the one thing you want to do as a running back on your first start is punch it in on a goal line. He did it. First go, first touchdown, fine. That's going to give them confidence in him to do that at least. Because if they feel like Elijah Mitchell was the better running back as a whole, then Sermon's still going to have a role in some capacity, I think. That's just me, though, because Jeff Wilson's going to be back in maybe a month or 2, right? Jermichael Hasty could be up, 3 weeks now, right? So, they've got
3-4 weeks, something like that.
Consider it for Sermon a 3-week audition for when Hasty starts rolling back in, then Jeff Wilson starts rolling back in, Elijah Mitchell starts rolling back in sooner than later as well. So, I think for Sermon, it's going to be hard that was a hard game to watch last night. I found it a little awkward to watch, to be honest. It was just hard. I felt like they were making too many errors, the 49ers, to some capacity. And then you see, negative yards by halftime for Sermon or whatever it was. And then, okay, the touchdown bailed him and you out. But that's something for them to work on him with. And that's a starting point for Sermon, at least for me. And if Elijah Mitchell comes in to fill the void for 12, 16 touches, fine. But with Garoppolo, I don't think they're going to stray away from him. I don't think that's going to happen. They were a kick away from being 3-0, and they'll carry on.
All right.
Yeah, I think they blame the defense on that loss more than the offense.
There you go. They've already bailed out Garoppolo on that one. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I do. They've already made the excuse of it was our defense fault. Garoppolo, there's not much more he could have done.
So next week they play the Seahawks. Is that you starting Sermon against the Seahawks or?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, they're getting beaten by running backs. Beaten by them. Alexander Madison destroyed them. Derrick Henry destroyed them. Listen, even Jonathan Taylor, to a degree, week 1, 17 points. 12 of them were from PPR from the reception value, 6 for 60. So I understand that too. That might not be Sermon's way, but Henry's still 183 yards. Madison's still 170. That it could be an okay day for Sermon still. Again, it's an audition. He'll get better. For me, it's still an audition. I'm not overly sold on the prospect of him being their lead guy just yet. Because I think if Mitchell was ready to go, he was there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing that scares me is that it might come down to a game time decision, and that's a 4:00 p.m. Eastern on Sunday game. So that might be one where you're having to make that decision before you know all the information. You might have to decide that before you know for sure that Elijah Mitchell's out. And I think that's risky to where I wouldn't want to start it. If other options I had with Sermon were also late games where I could still switch them out, I'd be okay with it. But I think having to go in, I'd almost assume Mitchell would come back because it seemed like he was kind of close game time decision last week.
I'm not sure about that. I think we'll know practice reports and things like that. But when he didn't do the walkthrough, it was looking ugly.
Yeah.
And when they said it was worse than a stinger, it was looking like he wasn't going to play. So we'll have to see. We don't know at this point.
It was more gamesmanship against the Packers that they weren't going to officially rule him out, so they keep him guessing.
Yeah,
huge.
Right.
Why wouldn't you? Why give up your hand?
That's true.
Yeah, and they may do the same thing, but we got to see if he's practicing at least.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable starting Sermon, even if Mitchell was there against Seattle, because they are that bad against running backs.
Interesting.
So for me, I will take the chance. Again, if he's in that afternoon game, he's probably in your flex spot, and I know that you probably want more upside, but Seattle they're leaking in that. This is what they were doing last year as well. So they acquired, who was it? The guy from Cincinnati, right? So this is what they were doing last year. They were bad on the run. They've been like that for a while now. Sermon could be in. If they can move the ball enough, he's a chance. That's all. If Mitchell's out, I'm playing him.
Nice. I like it. All right, a couple more quick hitters. Elijah Moore, New Jets. If things weren't bad enough out there for gangrene, he got a concussion. So he's in the concussion protocol. We'll have to watch the practice reports on that. And a late addition to the injury report, Scotty Miller for Tampa Bay. Has a toe injury. Looks like he's going to be placed on IR. So doesn't really matter if Antonio Brown comes back from the COVID list, but if he's kind of delayed or slow to come off the COVID list for any reason, then maybe Tyler Johnson and or Jalen Darden become a way to get a cheap piece of that offense. So just some thoughts there. And that's pretty much it from the from the injury standpoint. I don't think we missed anybody.
Yeah, so I think we head over to the Monday night preview now, the full Monday night preview. So
yeah,
Eagles at Cowboys. Right now, it's Vegas has an over/under of 51 combined, with the Cowboys as 3-point favorites. So any just quick thoughts before we get to the specific props?
I think that's the home field. That's the home field pick me up there. I think that's what it is. Okay, you're the home field favorite. We'll give it to you. Listen, there's a lot to like about both teams. If Philadelphia come out and do what they did week 1, this could be a very, very interesting game. The way that the injuries have fallen for Dallas, getting pressure, they looked all right last week. Okay, they looked all right getting pressure, but that's a beat-up team, though. Gallimore, Randy Gregory was missing. DeMarcus Lawrence is missing. Getting pressure on the Eagles, who are also missing Jordan Mailata, Andre Dillard at left tackle. He's a bit, he's not that. It's a bit iffy there for me. So, if Dallas can find a way to get pressure, this could be an interesting game. But for me, it's we'll see if they both come up. I mean, Dallas pulled one out last week, right? In a tough game against a team that just knocked off the Chiefs. So, interesting game. Very interesting. 51 seems about right for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of line injuries and absences on both sides of the ball here. I mean, it could be explosive, right? Guys not getting protected, forcing turnovers.
What is he doing?
The defense is even further depleted. This could be a shootout big time.
Very well.
So Gladys, any thoughts?
None whatsoever.
It's NFC East. There's the least amount of thoughts needed.
Why?
Okay, so talking about props. So first off, thanks Dan again, producer Dan, for putting out a bunch of Twitter polls and letting the people have their voice be heard in these votes. And so starting off with the quarterbacks. And first off, we've got Dak Prescott over under 300.5 passing yards. Dan made an interesting note that his average against the Eagles is 307.25 pass yards, but that only once he's actually gone over the 300 because he had 455 in December 2018 against the Eagles. So every other game he's been under 300. So at first I thought, oh yeah, Dak Prescott, he'll for sure do this, but that's a little eye-opening.
Yeah,
Good find there, Dan.
That was in his last 4 games against the Eagle. That obviously discounts 2020 because he wasn't playing. So it's 2018, 2019. So the 2021 version of the Cowboys is a lot different than the 2019 version as well. So that's something to take into consideration as well. But 455 yards in December. Well, that's December 2018. That's a belt of that. Very interesting.
Anyway, so you got that over under, and then the poll also had 2 other options. Jalen Hurts with passing yards 252.5. Again, over under. So I guess with the poll options, even though there was 4 options, it still had the majority rules with one option. It was Dak Prescott. Apparently over 51% or almost 52% of people voted Dak Prescott over on the 300. No other vote got more than 17%. So it seems like that was the one where, for the passing yards, everyone wanted to pick the over and specifically go with Dak.
Interesting. It's interesting to know that he hasn't really done it consistently against them. It's crazy, right?
I know.
Everyone went over and then
over.
If he's saying over, you pay attention because he loves the under. So if he's saying over, I'm going over.
But are we considering Cooper? Like, if Cooper's hurt and he's not targeting him as much, how many passing yards is that going to take away from Dak?
It's all the Tony Pollard.
I don't know. Pollard, Zeke, Schultz, Jarwin,
But those guys
Lamb.
are there if Cooper's healthy. Those guys are there.
Everyone's
so if Cooper's healthy, I would go over.
Everyone's going 5 for 60. There we go.
Yeah,
You'll get the 300 plus 60 yards through 500.
Plus, don't forget about my boy Cedric the unentertaining Wilson.
Izzy, what is happening to you? You're going over on Dak?
No.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Is he saying over on Dak?
That's it.
He's probably
That's it.
The world's been shattered.
Izzy needs Dallas.
Now nothing makes sense anymore, Gladys.
Makes sense anymore.
In his
So
words,
Gladys,
he's Jesus right now, you know. So,
yeah, I know. That was If anyone listened to the most recent episode of Dan and Izzy's podcast, I think he used that a few times on a few different teams. To be fair, Gerson's been saying that too recently too with certain teams. Apparently, I needed Jesus after I started Daniel Jones over Aaron Rodgers. So yeah. There you go. Dan's face said everything you need to say about that. So Gladys, sounds like are you preferring the Dak under on those yards, or would you just prefer to go with Jalen Hurts instead at 252?
I would prefer to go with Jalen Hurts. Oh, he has him on his fantasy team. He's like betting with his heart and not with his head. I would prefer to go Jalen Hurts instead. Actually,
okay.
I think he's safer.
All right, so
me too.
50 yards less. Just because of the game script, right? If we expect Dallas to win, it's probably because the Eagles are going to need to pass more. So,
right.
Next up was the sorry, Gladys.
No,
just the running back props. So combined rushing and receiving yards. You've got Ezekiel Elliott at 85.5. Again, this is all combined rushing receiving. Tony Pollard at 56.5, and then Miles Sanders at 82.5. So first off, the majority, or I guess not really a majority. Majority, yes. Majority did say Tony Pollard. So it looks like most people preferred Pollard here at the 56.5 combined yards. So what does everyone think about these three? Are there any over or unders that they'd like to go with on these running backs?
I don't mind Sanders 82.5.
Sanders at 82.5?
Yeah, I feel like Austin Eckler. I feel like the Chargers laid the blueprint for a good run game against Dallas. Eckler kind of showed how to use the running back well against them. 82.5. And we're talking about receptions. I know Jalen Hurts isn't the biggest fan of dumping it off. He might have to with all that pressure that's coming down, with Andre Dillard at left tackle. So that's what I think. I think Sanders could be in for an okay game as well. 82.5 doesn't seem too bad. Zeke, I feel it's just I don't know what to do with him in that regard. I don't think he can hit that.
You don't think he's going to hit that?
No.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Huh.
So then,
he could go for 70 combined yards and 2 touchdowns. It's still a great day, right? No one's going to blink.
Now Izzy's back to the unders.
Yeah, he's saying under. He thinks he's got Pollard next to a bunch of money bags. So I think he's saying over on Pollard, and then I would say this ghost face and the eyes, very surprised with what was saying about Miles Sanders. I'm assuming Izzy's taking the under on Sanders then.
Now the world makes sense again.
Now it does.
I kind of. I'll be honest. Okay, so Dan sticks Sanders. Doc, any of those props that you prefer?
Yeah, I'm so far on this episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I'm just asking the audience, and I'm feeling like I'm going along with whatever they say. That's kind of how I feel. So I'm the same thing. I like the Pollard combined one. Although Jamal Williams skunked me last week, but we don't need to talk about that. But I'll go back to the well again, and I'll go Pollard combined over.
Gladys, any preferences for these running backs?
What was Zeke's combined?
85.
80, yeah.
85.5. Yeah.
I like Zeke. I mean,
there we go.
He hasn't done really well. I mean, Pollard's been kind of like the it boy for the last couple of games, but this is home, and it's a divisional foe, and I think that it's going to be the Zeke show for this game.
It's funny. He got it last week. He had 97 yards rushing, receiving combined. So everyone thinks about bad week against the Chargers. He did get it last week, though. So.
Yeah, he got a touchdown, too.
Yeah. Pollard also worked in very heavily against that as well. So that could have also been the way that was going. Because talk about inflated stats, Pollard's numbers when it comes to his averages for the year blew everything up after 2 games. So it's just like what we're talking about, Zach and inflated numbers. Pollards are going to look the same, and that's why I kind of feel like 56.5 might be high.
I also think it's just a 17-game season, and we're only in like the 3rd week.
Yeah.
Like people are starting to abandon ship and abandon people, and it's only the 3rd week. So I don't think that any trends have been solidified yet, and the whole Pollard is so much better than Zeke argument is like ridiculous. You know what I mean?
That's my girl. Small sample size.
That's it.
Thank you. I couldn't think of what I was trying. That's the word. It's a small sample size. You got 17 games. Come on, people, shape it up.
So is he saying no way on Sanders? Truthfully, I think what makes this one tricky between these 3 running backs is that through 2 weeks, they've all had 1 game where they've gotten over and 1 game where they've gotten under. So all 3 are kind of like 50-50 kind of coin flips on if they can do this or not, or at least they have been so far. It's been split in the middle. I'll be honest, I kind of like Sanders, even though Kenneth Gainwell's there. But I think regardless of how the game goes, I think Sanders could reach this. If they're up a lot, he's going to get enough carries to maybe get this just on the ground alone. But if they're down a lot, then he complements enough with enough receiving yards. So I think Sanders is the one I like the most. So I agree with Dan.
There we go.
Wow.
All right.
I know. Now everything's off balance again.
Yeah. Now we're off kilter again.
I know. What am I going to do?
Listen, I'm a little rusty, all right? I'm a little rusty. I'm working my way in. We're getting there. We're a little rusty.
So moving over to the receivers now, maybe that'll let you run into shape a little more. So a few players, different receiving yards. You've got Devontae Smith at 60.5 over under, and this will all be receiving yards for these 4. CeeDee Lamb 81.5, Amari Cooper 71.5, and then Dallas Goedert at 36.5. So anyone? First of all, I guess the poll results. Poll results, I guess Cooper won. This one was a lot closer. This seemed like of the 3 polls, this was definitely the closest. 27.7% of the vote. Devontae Smith at 26.1, Lamb at 25.2, and Goddard at 21. So all of them like super close. So the fans really like Dak and Pollard over. This one they're all kind of split. So anyone want to take a stab at their favorite line?
I kind of lent this one aside from the injuries aside. I'll jump in on this because I put the note in here as well. So. Giuliano, I hope you're still here with us. Amari Cooper's played 7 games against the Eagle, only once with then the Oakland Raiders. His 3 best games have all been played at Dallas AT&T Stadium, where he's averaged 8 targets, 6.3 receptions, 148 yards, and a touchdown.
Oh my God.
So he is, or what we'd like to call 27.1 fantasy PPR points per game. So Amari Cooper slaps against the Eagles, as the kids would say. He slaps. That's what he does. And now you're going to put CeeDee Lamb next to him with it and 2 healthy tight ends and Tony Pollard. He's going to be more open, I'm guessing. I like Cooper at 71 because if his average is double, I'm down. So, I feel like that, the way he's going at about 21, 22 yards of reception against them. 3-4 touches and he's home. So I kind of like that. I feel like CeeDee Lamb is starting to get that attention now, isn't he? Which is great because he's just that damn good. So for me, Goddard was interesting, but for me, Cooper at 71, I think he could do that by halftime.
That's pretty compelling.
Yeah,
I like that. I like this. I like the Slim Reaper going over in this one. What happened, Gladys?
I think we're forgetting that Cooper might be hurt. He might be playing hurt.
Yeah, I'm just saying. If he wasn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely compelling, but more than one of these could happen. More than one of these could happen.
I voted from a separate account, and the first thing I did was go straight to Cooper. So for me, my vote went to that. I was like, it's Cooper. I know where I'm going with this.
I'm with Goddard. I think Goddard's easy money. 36.5 yards. Yeah. I agree with you, Izzy, this time.
Oh, yeah, I'll put up Izzy's comment. So he's saying Goddard as well. Yeah, okay. Interesting, because here's the thing. He didn't reach that last week. 24 receiving yards, only caught 2 passes. So I think if you can anticipate more than 2 receptions for Goddard, he probably hits that 36. So it's really coming down to that. Is he going to get that more than 2 catches?
Dallas's defense kind of sucks. I think we're forgetting that too.
Although the Chargers found out it doesn't suck that much last week. I mean, I was a little surprised they only scored 17 points. Like that to me, that was pretty surprising.
Okay, we're talking about a divisional game. Who's out on the D line? Like half the D line's out, right? Yeah. Their secondary wasn't really on the game.
They're all hurt.
Lawrence, Gregory.
Micah Parsons moved from linebacker to defensive end. Like, one of the biggest change he's done it before, apparently. But again, it's it's a tale of what we were talking about. Tale of 2 teams that both had an up game and a down game. Dallas boxed out the Chargers last week, and Jared Cook as a tight end was nowhere. Week before against Tampa, and Tampa's Tampa, Gronk absolutely ruined them. So, Gronk and the Tampa Bay Bucks are a different animal at times, and they absolutely diced them up. So we're looking at Goddard, who he could be consistently maybe their 3rd best receiver at any given point, right? Because, if you got Cephas that's going for, 2 catches and a $120, can't really compete with that, but he's a steady hand. If he gets your Kyle's on the money, if he gets 3 receptions, he's probably going over.
Yeah, don't forget the tight end of Christmas past, Zach Ertz he's playing in this game, so it's not all Goddard show like they were thinking it might be in the beginning of the week. So,
so Doc, do you have a preference on the lines?
Yeah, I mean, the one that I kind of liked was the Slim Reaper going over 60.5, but I don't have a strong feeling about it. So I went to medical school, not prop bet schools, but that's the one that kind of hit me the most as I see multiple ways where he could do that, especially if the Eagles get behind. That's kind of the one that I felt, which is not to say I dislike the other ones because I agreed with everything everybody else said. Which was really compelling. But that's the one that kind of stood out to me. If I had to pick one, that would be the one that I would go with.
I would totally go to prop bet school. I would. That'd be awesome.
Is it in Vegas?
I know.
Yeah,
that would be
there we
awesome.
go. I think I might need to go to prop bet school if I have another week like I had last week.
Is it actually there is Doc? There is a prop bet school. It's called FanDuel. It's out near the MetLife. Izzy will tell you there. He'll meet you there. Izzy's going to cross the George Washington. He'll meet you
I'm
there.
Professor Izzy Ortiz, and I'm going to be your professor all year at prop bet school. I want to take that course.
Find him at Sosa Props. He knows Sosa Props. He's got it. Don't worry.
All right, so is he saying that the 60.5 for Smith's tough, but he can do it, Doc? So
Yeah, he can.
that's
Right,
apparently he has an office as well. So
Yeah,
it is
he has,
super official.
I think the thing is, like, all three seem reasonable. Like the other two, like the Dak one, even like Dak and Hurts felt like, all right, like if this game blows up, it's happening. But we've seen them both put up half duds. All right. Even with the running backs, like they all seemed kind of almost aggressive within out of reach to a degree. Like
It's
these ones
right
seem
by
like
the
every one
horse
of them.
track.
I'm right by the horse.
That makes sense, actually. Izzy's logic got a logic to this.
It's all starting to make sense now.
between the bookies, the horse track, and the garbage chip. He's in there between the three. He's not in waste production management. I'm telling you that.
I'm signing up for the online course, Izzy.
So
Definitely.
to kind of just piggyback off your point, Dan, like even last week with the Cowboys offense not doing great, Lamb had 81 yards, which technically would be under this, but like this feels really safe to me. And I mean
crazy.
Cooper does too, and it almost feels like Cooper's yards, the injuries kind of priced into these yards. Like if he was healthy, I think he'd be probably maybe 10 yards higher than Lamb instead of 10 yards lower. So I would say out of all the props we've talked about tonight, these two are definitely my favorite. Cooper over and Lamb over. But I'll say my number one is Lamb over. I just think he's probably for sure getting that.
Easy. And listen, if anything happens to Cooper, we hope it doesn't. It's more wheels up for Lamb, but
Yeah,
again,
for sure.
I think Cooper could do this before halftime's finished. That's the problem. Like it almost, you don't want to play your bets into a guy that's injured and or maybe injured or what we do and don't know. But he could almost have that by halftime based on what he's done against them before. Then again, their cornerbacks before have been garbage. So that's the Philadelphia Eagles of the past. Their cornerbacks were pretty brutal in the past. You know, they what?
I have a question that's nothing to do with the prop bets at all. Nothing to do with the prop bets. What do we think about Josh Gordon going to the Kansas City Chiefs?
It's interesting.
They've really needed a third wide receiver to kind of to show up when the other two, and it's not. This is not going to be every week, but I think it's weeks where you play really good defenses that know how to take out Kelsey and Hill. That's where they need that other person that's kind of like a mismatch nightmare, and no one else like Hardman, Robinson, like those guys aren't that. I think Gordon can be that. Will he? Can he get back? I don't think he's going to get back to 2013 form. That was 8 years ago. But better than what those other guys have been doing, I think he certainly can, because I think that it's, the Chiefs have been waiting. Like it's been pretty disappointing for them what they've gotten from that third target.
Right.
I think personally they're going to go 10 targets, Kelsey at least, 10 targets to Tyreek Hill at least, and they're going to throw 3 targets to another 7 receivers.
Yep.
That's what they do. They're going to mix and match around as they go around and fiddle around with everyone else in between. I'm happy for him. I think the most important thing is that if he is in a good place, and listen, if this is a way for him to get this chapter in his life and move forward with it, then I hope he gets that closure, sees the year out, wins a Super Bowl, and never comes back again. I just hope he's in a great place and he's ready to go and he can contribute and feel good, and whatever happens after that, I hope he's good to himself.
Well, I mean,
in that regard.
it was always weed, right? So the lax.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and that's the thing.
I don't know if it was always only.
Yeah,
weed,
I don't know if it was just that.
I know that's what he's gotten suspended for, but it also seems like some of the other stuff is also harder to trace. So
he was
got
also,
away with it.
He was also in Cleveland with Johnny Manziel. What do you want from the boy? Come on, Mike.
That's a good point. He also took himself out too. There was a time he got reinstated and he just said, "I'm not ready. Like I'm going to take the rest of the year off." So credit to him for coming back, and I really do hope it works. I mean, it's so enticing, right? It's like you feel like it's unfinished business because he was so good when he was playing, and it just feels like this exactly wasted opportunity. So it's like I really hope you can put something together, and if you're going to do it somewhere. Kansas City's not a good place to go to try to latch on and try to make something happen.
Ultimately, he could go off this year, and then he just absolutely bunged Juju Smith-Schuster's contract to the Chiefs in a year's time. He's going to absolutely plummet it. Yeah, well, okay. You wanted 50 mil? We got Josh Gordon for like 1.2 vet minimum on a retainer. Get out of here.
There you go.
Listen, they find a way to make receivers work in their system. Listen, Blake Bell had a reception this weekend. They can spread it around to whoever they want, whenever they want. That's what they can do. At 1 and 2, it seems like what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like
they're 30's the new 20. So, there you go.
That's it. He's at what? He's 2 years younger than Kelsey, a year or two older than Hill. He's right that mix of their elite players. Why not? If he can still go, I'm not exactly going out to pick him up off waivers. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to be happy to see him out there doing what he does best. If he can, and that's it. I'm just leaving it for that. I'm just going to enjoy it.
Well said. And you can't pick him up off of waivers because I already did. So there you go.
Deep dynasty leagues. Anyway, so one last comment from Jared is it's hard for a guy to get 15 targets and miss 82 yards. Now, to be fair, Lamb only had 9 targets last week, and that's when he came 12, up short. So
12 for 58 this week.
Lamb?
No, not Lamb. Jalen Waddle. Anyone can do that. Anyone can get targets and go nowhere.
That's true. To be fair,
Jarvis Landry can do it.
Okay, fair enough. But I mean, I think Dak's probably a better quarterback than what those other guys have too. But let's get to the game predictions. So again, it's Cowboys by 3, and it's a 51 over under. So anyone want to share their picks, what team they're picking on the over under for the total?
I feel like this is in class when you get called on by the teacher and nobody wants to.
Okay, so I tend to lean Dallas. I think, despite their defensive problems, we've seen them win games in mass shootouts with terrible defense. We'll call it the first 4 games of 2020, right? They were brutal on defense last year, and we're putting up 30-odd points a game. So in that respect, they're fine. We know that Dallas will cover their end of the deal. Can Philly keep up? Yeah, I do. I think they'll be able to keep up. I got Dallas with a 3. I think they'll win. I think they'll win 6, 7 points. I think there's a touchdown for a minute. And then I'm going to go with the over as well. I think this can get there. You could see both teams putting up 30 on this one. It could happen. It's really there for the taking. But Dallas at home, they're always a good bet at that point, and this one's going over for me.
Love it. Nothing to add. I agree with that.
Oh, that's a cop-out, Jim. That's a cop-out, Jim.
No, it's not a cop-out. It's like I'm riding your coattails, my friend. Welcome back.
Well, I gotta say, I agree with Doc and I guess also Dan in that Cowboys. I'll take the Cowboys as 3-point favorites and then the over. And I think it goes kind of hand in hand to me. Like the Cowboys are going to score enough points to cover that spread, and because that like the total points of the game is also going to reach it. I would feel like the Eagles' better chance at winning is a defensive game. So I almost felt I either take the Eagles, take the underdog and under, or take the favorite and over. So I'm going with the favorite and over there.
3 offensive plays, 2 went to Zeke already.
Oh, the game started. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's past 8:15. Sorry. So if anyone didn't lock in the bets until we're waiting for us to finish, sorry. Gladys,
I hope
even though the game started, what's your pick? Even though you've seen the two Zeke runs, has changed it all for you. Or are you going to agree with us on Dallas and over?
Oh, my God. I hate to agree with you guys, but I will.
All right, so Dan said it perfectly enough. There was nothing else needed. Now, one last question, and I guess Glad said you didn't want to talk about the Steelers, but this is actually a good Steelers thing. Najee Harris, 19 targets. I believe led all players in receptions this week.
The future is here. And his
so he says, can we? He asks, can we address it? I don't know what there is to address. I mean, is it that surprising when their top target from last season missing the game, and then the number 2 target got hurt in the game? I feel like, rather than put passes towards James Washington or Ray McLeod, you want to just pass to Najee Harris that you spent a first-round pick on, right? So I don't know if this is going to be the game plan every week, but I think Harris might be a RB1 every week just based on volume if he's this involved in the passing game.
Touchdown. CeeDee Lamb.
There we go.
And it was like 60 yards. No, it wasn't any.
So he's almost.
But it was a lot.
Anyway, so Izzy's saying Dallas and as 3.5-point favorites and under on the game total. Jared's saying Dallas. We all said Dallas, so sorry, Philly. It's probably going to be Philly winning this to make us all look foolish, but hopefully we didn't look too foolish tonight here on the 2-point conversion. So I guess now that the game started, we'll head out, let everyone go watch the game, not have to watch us. And so anyone want to plug? All right. So anyone want to plug anything? Twitter accounts, books they've written?
Oh my God! I think someone made a book.
Yeah. No plug this week. I did want to touch on something that happened over the weekend, and I do appreciate the support as always. But us in the fantasy football community, we lost somebody. So Mike Taglieri from Fantasy Pros passed away after a long battle with COVID. And he leaves behind a wife and 2 children. He's only 39 years old. Thousands of fans, very well known throughout the industry. I did not know him personally, but I was very familiar with his work, as I'm sure many people have. I know he was very impactful for a lot of people that work in this space. So, just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, send our condolences to his family, his friends, his followers, and his fans. The only thing for me is I see COVID in my daily work, and this definitely impacted me on a personal level. The only thing that I can say to that is just hug your loved ones, tell them how much you love them. None of us are guaranteed it tomorrow. Stay safe. And I wanted to at least offer the opportunity to ask me questions, at TFS Doc on Twitter. It can be about players. It can be about COVID. It could be about the vaccine. Whatever I can help with, I'm happy to. My only agenda is to provide a safe environment, compassionate, non-judgmental environment where people can communicate, have their concerns be heard and addressed. And I think that's what's really been lacking in most discussions around these complex issues like COVID and the vaccine up to this point. So if that resonates with you, please reach out to me at TFSDoc on Twitter. Any correspondence will be kept confidential if you prefer. And I just want to make myself available for that. And again, pass on my condolences to Mike Taglieri's family, his friends, and his followers and his fans. Very sad and very tragic occurrence that we had to that came about this weekend.
Well said, Doc.
I agree, 100%. I will say check out our Twitter accounts because there is a GoFundMe for his family. It's been floating around Twitter. I've retweeted it numerous times, different links to it over the course of the weekend. So check Senra Says, go through the timeline. You don't have to look too long for a link there, but I know I think you can reach it through the Fantasy Pros website if you prefer as well. But yeah, so thanks for those beautiful words, Doc. Gladys, it is your show, the 2-point conversion. After all, any final thoughts for us?
So not my show. That much my final thought.
It's your off-season show. It's our show together now, but the OG on the show.
Oh, wow. Thank you. No, I just think it was well said, Doc. I personally didn't know Mike T, and I was slightly familiar with his work, but the main thing is that he was 39 years old. He left behind a wife and 2 children, and 39 is incredibly young to be gone. So you guys, it can happen anytime, anywhere, anyhow. It doesn't not even COVID, just anything. So be nice. Just be nice. That's all you have to do. Just be nice. Okay. It doesn't really take that much.
Yeah.
effort.
It doesn't cost anything to be nice.
Yeah.
Be kind.
That's true. Yeah. Good thing.
Yeah. And welcome back, Dan. Missed your face.
Yeah. I'm gone. I'm taking off for another week.
Okay.
So,
whatever, Dan.
So Jeff, I hope you're listening still. I have a beautiful daughter, and it will be her 5th birthday next Monday night, and I will not be here.
What's her name?
Little Alexandra.
Happy birthday, Alexandra!
Happy early birthday, Alexandra.
Happy early birthday, Alexandra.
Yes, she absolutely runs my life.
As
Just
she
like a
should.
princess.
As
Didn't
she
she
should.
become a princess last year?
She is a princess every day, Gladys.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Never mind, Alexandra. I'm sorry.
I will certainly post a photo of her at
Yay.
some capacity. She is a bright young girl. Very, very incredible. Very incredible.
Yay.
Love it.
Yes,
Happy birthday, Alexandra.
I am a girl dad. So it's
That you are.
very interesting. But yeah,
Talking
Jen,
about the important things, and that's an
it.
important reason to miss the show, to be honest. So
Yeah,
we appreciate
It's
you
acceptable
coming this
this
week,
time.
Dan.
yeah,
Unless we were on the show with you.
All
Bring her
right.
on the show.
Maybe we'll see. It's a school night, so I'd have to. If I can record from home, I'll bring her on. But if she comes on, she'll never leave, and then we'll end up watching like
Is what I'm hoping for.
we'll end up watching YouTube or something with her instead. So that's a spiral. I don't think we're all going down on that one. So she might put on a performance though. We'll see.
Yay, touchdown Zeke.
All right.
What?
Right then.
Already over
Lord.
0.5.
So this is
All
going
right,
over.
you guys.
All right.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Izzy.
we'll head out. Thanks, Izzy. Thanks, Jared. Jeremy. I know Gerson was there for a little bit. Of course, always good. Thank you, Gerson.
Thanks for all that.
Liano,
Thanks for
John.
watching.
Yes, appreciate all the listeners, viewers, and check out everything at Going for Two Live. All the great live shows through the week. So that, again, on Twitter at Going for Two Live, and basically every night of the week there's something on Going for Two. So we've
I
got you
think this
covered.
Friday, G is doing his show. They're doing like a tribute to Mike T. I think.
We're the end of the week. How funny is that? It's Monday and we're the last show of the week. I still can't
know,
get my head
right?
around it. Oh, yeah,
That's
we're
true.
finishing up on Monday. What? Okay.
Yeah, good old football week, not the calendar week. But mark your calendars. Every Monday we'll be here for the 2-point conversion. So on behalf of Dr. Feretti, on Dan, Gladys, I'm Kyle Senra, and this was the 2-point conversion. Injury sucking your fantasy team doesn't have to.
There we go. Plug.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.